Well, hello there. My name is Dave Vila. I want to welcome you to this new edition of News and Views broadcast by Access LaPorte County on Public Access TV Channel 99. We are a weekly public opinion program addressing local, state, and national topics and issues of interest to the Michigan City and surrounding areas. Opinions are the views and the responsibilities of making comments and do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of this program or its co-producers. We will adhere to broadcast rules, but no one's First Amendment rights to freedom of speech or freedom of the press will be either muzzled nor denied. Any unauthorized use of the accounts, descriptions, and events of this program without the express written consent of its co-producers strictly prohibited. We hope you enjoy the program, the discussion, and the participants. Ladies and gentlemen, there is an individual in Washington, D.C., who was asked by the President of the United States to provide a service to us taxpayers. And he has uncovered a few things. A few things that when you look at the picture of the interest of the national debt, how it monopolizes and goes item after item after item, that is the interest that is due paid on the national debt. The national debt might be a direct result of what this guy uncovered, or a contributing factor. That's all I want to say. Bob?
A contributing factor.
Oh, you're coming to me?
Yeah?
Okay. Well, I would just comment on that yes, this is a huge problem with all the interest we have to pay, but we still have the soundest dollar in the entire world, which doesn't mean we're great. It's just that's how many more problems that a lot of countries economically have. But I want to start it out today because I'm a big advocate of that prison property being used as the eastern access to the Indiana Dunes National Park. When I say Indiana Dunes National Park, that is the national park. They allowed us to use the name, or they gave us the Indiana Dunes National Park, put Indiana in front of it, as opposed to in Tennessee, the Smoky Mountain National Park, which doesn't say Tennessee. It starts out by saying Smoky Mountain National Park. But I want to talk something about it because right now I know there's a push to put housing out there. And with the number one, I think it economically in the future would be much more valuable to Michigan City to have that housing go south of Michigan City, and I can talk about why, and I'm sure Tony can talk about it even more. But in addition to that, the land on the prison probably has serious environmental problems. And when you build a lot of housing, 250, 300 units, generally they want to do it in one fell swoop. I think what we have to do is go in and put up the various buildings that we're going to need on a building by building basis and clean up the area, totally clean it up, not just cover it over, as they have done with a number of sites in Michigan City. But if we go out and totally clean it up for each one of those areas, eventually we will have it totally cleaned up. Okay, a little bit about the Indiana Dunes National Park, which is the old Lakeshore National Park. First of all, it is the fourth most biodiverse park in the national park system. It consists of 15,489 acres. That may be one of the largest. Its inhabitants and those that on occasion, due to their spawning habits or flying south or flying north, there are 46 species of mammals, 60 species of butterflies, 1,200 species of ferns and various types of flowering plants, 71 species of fish. Now, that's the fish that are either in the creeks and rivers that flow in or those that come in to spawn. Actually, there's something like 153 species of fish in Lake Michigan, but the ones that are either in the park on a total basis annually, or that use the park, the rivers and creeks in that park on a spawning basis, there's about 71 of those species. And maybe one of the most important things, 350 species of birds. It is the #1 outdoor recreation area in the state of Indiana. The annual visitors to that park, now that's the national park and the state park, 2.1 million. 60% of them come from the outside. The visitors to the park spend about $70 million annually. If we really got this thing going, they could easily double that number. And it supports 976 jobs on an annual basis. One little note that a lot of people didn't realize, I certainly didn't realize it, Mount Baldy is not the largest dune in the area. It is a moving dune, but the largest dune in the area is Mount Tom, and that is a statutory dune. And with that, I've had my say, but I hope people will get involved with this, start to think about it, and I'm just one of those. I think there's a number of people that are doing it, think that this area should be used, the Indiana prison area should be used for something more that will be more valuable, certainly in the future, than just housing, which we can put on the south side. Now, what's the other reason connected with that? Because if you go to the south side, that was agricultural area, you're not going to have the environmental problems that you're going to have if you use the prison area. And once you start getting into cleaning up these environmental areas, the cost goes up horrifically in terms of a house per unit. So if you want to hold down the housing costs, and they're already horrendous, you need to go to land that has not been damaged environmentally and land that doesn't have to be cleaned up, as opposed to the prison site, which is going to have to be cleaned up. And with that, I'll pass it to my two Democrat counterparts.
You've got a topic? I've got something I want to bring. Just recently, I read that the new governor of the state of Indiana is taking the axe to the community schools budget. And if you follow this program for a long period of time, you heard of some of my research pertaining to 15% of funds eligible by the school city if they request this money from the Redevelopment Commission. Well, lo and behold, if my logic applies, if the governor hacks the Michigan City Area Schools budget, the Michigan City Area Schools will not be in as much of a deficit as maybe the other community schools around, because they are eligible for 15% of revenue for work training programs, work retention programs, educational programs, and so on, to prepare individuals to participate in competitive global economy. I'm just saying that my research over the last 3 years maybe help offset some of the funds lost by the Michigan City Area Schools because the governor is cutting the school city's budget. And if that's the case, Michigan City and should request as much as they possibly can get, because there were some statistics that I've read that they may be losing maybe $2.5 million, maybe $3 million a year out of their funding mechanism from the state. Well, this is a way to offset that loss.
The buzzword right now is 3D chess.
Say what?
The buzzword is 3D chess. So what is the governor doing? Because I don't think there's a chance the legislature is going to give him what he wants. Do you think anybody in this state house rep, state senator, is going to cut their, what did Commissioner Holyfield say, about $8 million to the county? So what, $8 million to Michigan? Do you think there's a chance that anybody is going to put forward that budget or even vote for that budget? And so I bring up the word 3D chess. What is the governor doing? He has got to know. He's a smart man. This is not going to fly. What does he want? Because I think he threw this out knowing there's no chance this is going to be the budget. Ain't nobody going to vote to cut every municipality and city and county the percentage he wants, to do more with less, and to raise your own taxes, whether it's a wheel tax, an income tax, take it from TIFs. And I don't know the answer. I'm just asked because I've been thinking about this. What do we do? It does cause consternation with even me, because now we got every municipality that potentially has a 10% shortfall in their budget. The county of LaPorte and when I was elected, no matter whether I liked it or not, the council had a tight purse string, and they should have. The cities have not. Gary has a problem with $12 million coming to Michigan City. Michigan City's going to get what, $6 million?
No, I heard it's almost 12 million.
Well,
That's
$12 million total between East Chicago and Michigan
But
City.
all that 12 million is coming to Michigan City.
So we're going to get money, but I don't think the governor ain't going to get anyone downstate in the House or the Senate to agree to this budget. Now, where that goes, I'm sure he knows where he thinks it's going to end up. I'm sure the House and the Senate are scrambling to figure out where they want it to end up, because there's a lot more of them than one governor. And we've never seen this before. We're seeing on the federal level too that we're going to have to rat out the wasted money that we spend, but there's not that kind of money to waste in Indiana to route out. And to ask these communities to cut 10%, I don't think it's going to happen.
Could this be construed like as a trickle down, similar to what Trump is doing at the federal level?
I think they're just throwing out a huge cut, hoping they get a tenth of it.
My gosh. Well, the intent of my comments.
Yes, that we as Michigan City are a lot better off than anyone
Correct.
else. You take the money we're going to get that we lost from the casino, the money we get from the casino, the TIF funds we have, which we cannot just spend wildly anymore. We are in way better off than I'd say 90% of the state of Indiana. The thing that really I wasn't very happy with the governor is, and I think the legislature is going to do this, which drives me crazy. They're going to increase the rainy day fund to $600 million from $300 million. What is
Will that
stupid?
go from 6 weeks to maybe 7 weeks?
Because if they ran out of money, they're going to come get more. Why is the government playing banker? Why are they taking more money than they need and telling us we got to cut? Nothing makes sense. And this is a Republican state. This is a conservative Republican state.
Or they're setting it up to bargain for something. I don't know.
Yes, the 3D chess. They're bargaining for something. I don't think he's bargaining for the rainy day fund. I think they all think that's a great idea. Well, if it's $600 million, why not make it $1 billion? Why not make it $2 billion? Why not make it $3 billion? I ask these questions because they're ludicrous. Why have a rainy day fund? The government is not in the business of playing bank. If they need taxes, they go down and they vote for it. We don't take more and hold on to it so we can keep providing service. I think this is the antithesis of the Republican platform. This is big government saying we need to take more of your money because without us, you're going to fail. That's the opposite of the Republican platform, and everyone seems to be fine with it. I don't get it.
Well, I'm going to pick up another subject on what Dave was talking about, because I really don't like the idea of taking money from the Michigan City taxpayers when we have a consolidated school system. But we have a couple of problems in that consolidated school system that I would certainly agree to and would be pushing if, in fact, that was going to happen. Number one, if that's going to happen, I think those funds have to be directed. They cannot just be thrown in there, squishy, squishy,
no.
here's what you do with it. Number one, I hate to say this, but I think we've got to check to see if we need metal detectors. Throughout the country, although it's a very, very small percentage, when it happens, it's horrific. We got to know if somebody's coming in there with some kind of a weapon, can be a knife, can be a gun, so on and so forth, and we need to have metal detectors to be able to find that if it happens. Now, maybe we have them. I don't know whether we have them. Maybe we only partially have them. But if that's the case, I would certainly be behind spending that money for metal detectors. Now, let me finish. The bigger area that I would be concerned about would be we have so many students that are behind in their grade level, i.e., they are functioning at a third grade level, but they're in the fifth grade. We call that social promotion. I don't think you can get by and not have social promotion, which means because you do not want 11-year-olds in an 8- and 9-year-old class. That causes other problems, major social problems. So as a result of that, we have got to do something to bring these kids up to speed, and I think that's something right now, although I'd certainly be willing to listen to other programs, is a mandatory Saturday classes and mandatory summer school. if you are not operating up to grade level, then mandatorily, you will have to go to classes on Saturday, you will have to go to classes during the summer in order to get your academic ability up to the grade level in which you are in. The big tests are in reading and in math. And I don't know how many are behind, but I have a feeling it may be more than 500. So in our entire school system, that is something that we have to work out. You saw in a newspaper the situation where the school board passed a resolution going against what's known as charter schools. Charter schools, if you go into the really downtrodden areas of the large cities, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, charter schools have been a positive. In fact, there was a strong hint that what these two state bills were after were Gary and Indianapolis, which have really huge problems. Charter schools have been able to bring up students' capabilities, and I watched some financial programs at 4 o'clock in the morning because for 50, 60 years I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning in order to get to work because I commuted. So as a result of that, I then go back to bed about 5:30, 6 o'clock, and I can go back to sleep. But they bring on students that have gone through these charter schools and will right away acknowledge that they would have been in big trouble, probably in prison, if it hadn't been for the charter school that they were in. But they concentrate very heavily in 3 areas: math, reading, and English. And they separate reading and English. English to them, when you look at that type of class, is basically the functions. What's a noun, what's a pronoun, what's a verb, how do you use them? Reading is bringing in books, bringing in publications, and letting the students read them. And as a result of that, their vocabulary increases significantly, and they are then able to at least understand what is being said when they are given tests, because many of these kids can't even read the test material. That we have to do something about. So if my point would be, if we're going to do this, then that has to be directed at a program like this to bring these students up. Otherwise, this school system will continue to have problems.
And going back to specifically, the use of this money is for education programs, work training programs, worker retaining programs, or any other programs designed to prepare individuals to participate in a competitive and global.
That's the one you want to circle and underline. Any other programs designed to.
That is correct. And so there is in reading this, even though it's sort of broad, it specifically lays out
but
what
we would have to make sure that
that is correct. The
Yes.
school city has to make that determination. It's not up to me. I just
well
school board.
in passing the money out, the organization that's going to pass it out. And,
Well, that's the state of Indiana.
No.
36,725,7.
no, I'm thinking about
Redevelopment Commission.
Redevelopment
Yeah.
Commission. They would, because they can contract this, because this is a contribution. They would have to specifically spell out in that contract that this is a contribution, it's to be used for this particular purpose, and we want reports on a monthly basis as to how these students are doing.
I support that. It's there.
We're going to have to do something, or the next fight 3 years from now is going to be charter schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to, I think the way to get these students to move forward as fast as we can, and we have an awesome technology person in our
That's correct.
in our school.
Kevin McGuire.
He and people like him are the catalyst to move this forward. Because if you give the kids a book, they're not going to really be enthused about going through it. You make the kids, whatever social media they're running on, whether it's reading through there or forcing them to read and do papers on whatever they're scrolling through, you might have a chance of getting through to them. And maybe that will help them start reading and vocabulary. But I'm sorry to give these kids books when they're all running around with $1,000 phones and tablets. They're not enthused. Again, you have to incentivize, not penalize. And maybe it isn't a Saturday class. Maybe it's an extra hour and after school every day. Maybe you got to get them when they're ready to learn, to throw them into learning. And I'm not a morning person, To throw them into learning at 7 in the morning, I think between 7 and 9, you might be lucky to get 50% of their attention span. But you hit them between 10 and 2, you're probably running on all cylinders.
The reason I like the summer school is because that's an incentive. If you can get to your grade level, then you don't have to go to summer
I
school.
would say summer school is awesome if it wasn't in the standard brick and mortar. Summer school where they're at home or they come eat lunch at school, which you give them lunch in the summer, and you have them on technology, whether they're at home, they're not watching whatever social media or something on YouTube, or maybe it is something on YouTube. Maybe the school needs to reach out through YouTube and do programs that are more educational than the social media garbage that they're looking at and whatever nonsense they're reading. The schools need, and we always need to, adapt. The days of come in, sit down, read this book, take a test on paper are gone and over. And you can keep pushing that, but that's what you're going to get.
Well, one more reason for doing it now is because, well, Tony and I were privileged to be able to sit and listen to a program put on by the chancellor of Ivy Tech in Michigan City and the vice chancellor and their director of marketing. I didn't realize it. For years, Purdue North Central, now it's Purdue Northwest, but Purdue North Central had a remedial program for students who were not capable of performing at college level. About 10, 12 years ago, they passed that program to Ivy Tech because Purdue University came along and said, we're upgrading all of our regional campuses. You will have professors that qualify in terms of their background, in terms of their publications, in terms of their degrees at various levels. And we're not in the remedial program business. Ivy Tech is. They pass it to Ivy Tech. We found out in this presentation about 7 years ago, Ivy Tech did away with that. So right now, for kids coming out of that high school, or even one of the other high schools in the area, there is no remedial programs for them in college. That was a good program.
Well, in college at Purdue, they have something called TRIO, which it's not remedial, but they try to keep up with the students that may have struggles. And the professors know who those students are quietly. As we teach, we are told these are TRIO students, and we make sure that they don't fall behind, and if they need help, we give them help. So Purdue and major campuses still have something. It's not as good as what it should be, but they still try to make sure those students don't fall behind and can keep up. They don't bring them ahead, but they make sure they're not falling through the cracks.
But this is the reason that, because they don't have the kinds of programs, in my mind, that they should have, we should have these kids coming out of high school ready to go to college. You cannot depend on a remedial program like that. Unfortunately, Ivy Tech has done away with it. Now, the good part to this is Ivy Tech is a solid 2-year school. I mean, yeah, you can get all of your courses in there through 2 years at a much cheaper cost than going down to campus at IU or Purdue. And
Michigan City Area Schools has an established dual credit program already available for these kids to take advantage of.
But that's great. I think it's fantastic. But the problem is the kids you're going to get in there are the upper levels. We have got to do something about the lower levels. In my opinion.
And you go back to Kevin McGuire. If you walk through any university these days, and as I teach in class, my biggest struggle in class is with the university finding me a lab for my students to be in. Because 90% of our stuff is technology. And Purdue has some of the, Northwest and Purdue and IU have some of the greatest campuses and the greatest hardware. But the lecture halls, even this week, I teach Tuesdays in a lecture hall. It's the typical lecture hall, stadium seating, big screen TV, big chalkboard. But that lecture hall, those days are gone too. It's so gone that the desks are falling apart because they're not spending money on those desks. They're spending money on technology and in the labs. So all the rooms are becoming labs with computers and all the technology. And we are blessed to have someone like Kevin McGuire out here because that is where these students need to be. A big lecture hall, not helping anybody. The labs and the technology is where everything needs to be. And Purdue and Michigan City's doing a good job, and some school districts don't seem to be as in tune to it like Michigan City. We're lucky.
Yeah, but you're getting the upper level students again.
Well, I'm getting some students that could fall behind pretty quick, and I know who they are.
But I know, but I'm after these students that are at the bottom or close to the bottom.
Yeah, I'm not seeing freshman level students. I'm seeing junior level
Yeah, yeah.
students.
And those are the ones that I think, if we don't do something, they're in a permanent underclass.
And that's why, in reference to educational programs, at the impressionable years of third grade and fourth grade, when these kids are a sponge absorbing anything and everything, learning at that area, that's where I would like to target. I brought that to Kevin's attention in a conversation I had with him, and he says he's working with Baker Tilly, adding as Baker Tilly is what, a bonding company or whatever? Big law firm.
Law firm.
Anyway, they are contributing some support to this particular project behind the scenes. But if somebody doesn't read the law, what the money is delegated for, you know.
I'll put it this way. What Tony is talking about and what Dave is talking about, when you get into this technology, you have to understand the verbiage. You have to be able to put it together. If you can't read at the 5th grade level, there is no way you're going to read these.
Well, the other problem, you got this technology that we have some older generation teachers who are not, and it's not their fault, will not be willing or able to go with it. We have a group of younger teachers who have grown up with us, and we are transitioning to that sort of world that we needed someone like Kevin Guire to know this is coming. And when somebody like Baker Tilly comes in, they're not just doing it out of the grace of their heart. They're doing it because they know in order for Baker Tilly to be around another 100 years, they need these students who are here at 3rd, 4th, 5th grade to be ready when they are 20 years old. And it comes pretty quick. So they are working with everyone to say, when these come out, I need them to be ready. So I need teachers to understand it, I need teachers to teach it. And we need them to all embrace the technology and use the technology and push them with the technology. Technology does make it easier, but if you use it more, then you start pushing them, you start strengthening their brains by making them use it more instead of just lazily looking at it.
And this approach that we're talking about, it's not new for us. We've been talking about this for years. It's just a matter of making something happen. And we can only suggest. It's up to the school board, Michigan City area schools.
Yeah, and the school board and the superintendent are the ones that are going to have to set the course. They have got to demand that these things are done. It's like Trump. He's getting there because he demands it, but man, is he taking flack, which doesn't bother him at all.
Yeah, he doesn't care. And it's pretty heartening to see that somebody who's only got 4 years is, go ahead, push back.
Look at the Panama Canal.
Good luck. Push back because I can't run again, so whatever. If you don't want to help and you don't want to move the country forward, then good luck. I did my best.
Yeah.
So the topic I want to do, which I'm sure everyone read, was the county agreement with NIPSCO, and what scared me is supposedly we're going to try to keep the plant here. Was Michigan City involved in that negotiation?
Well, that was through Shaw Friedman efforts down in Indianapolis negotiating the rate increase, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or is that? Yeah. Are we? Because I didn't think I'd ever see the NIPSCO gone, but we have a chance at it, and now we're negotiating. Well, another government's negotiating for Michigan City to keep it here. The only positive I saw about the negotiation.
5 million tax base. That's a positive.
The only positive I saw was that the negotiation looks at them moving it. Yes, please move it. I don't move it to the landfill. I don't know, but get it off the lakeshore. That's a multi-billion-dollar piece of property, and we're fighting to leave it here. And I don't understand, because I'm not as gifted as some of the CEOs in this negotiation. Did NIPSCO help itself out? Because if you read the tea leaves, it's NIPSCO selling its electric business, and now they have negotiated a contract with the state of Indiana and the IURC, Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, that this plant will stay, it will keep running, it will run on gas. So as NIPSCO sells electricity, whoever they sell it to has to buy their gas. That doesn't help Michigan City out.
Well, other than the $5 million assessment, tax base that Michigan City gets.
Of the assessment, they don't get $5 million from them.
No, but the property is assessed at $5 million.
But it could be assessed at $500 billion.
But
That's a
again,
number, I think
there's
that's a-
longevity involved in that.
That's
in
a
that statement.
crazy number, but mark my words, in my lifetime, you might see that property assessed at $500 billion with a hotel and marina and boat docks and high-end condos and townhomes and water park or whatever. And one government is trying to tie Michigan City down to a $5 million assessment. I don't understand one bit of what that is all about, and I would hope the council, who I think is very in tune, would be passing a resolution screaming at the top of their lungs, no.
Isn't that assessment on that property? It's not assessed by our local assessor. It's assessed by the state.
State.
Regulatory Commission.
Oh, yeah, our
Regulatory.
hands are bound.
Yeah, we have to take what they provide.
Yeah.
And if this is going to go through, I guess the council and the mayor need to find out as much as they can and find out where we're going to move it, because it ain't staying there. It has got to go. That was a gift and a dream to Michigan City, and now it looks like it could be another nightmare.
Well, since Tony brought that up, and we had a discussion before that, I think they remember, I never thought NIPSCO would move. I did think they would take down the coal generating station, but I've been saying all along, they will still be there. Now, on top, initially, what we're looking at is the valuation of those facilities as a gas-producing electric utility. Where is the real value in NIPSCO? Closeness to the water. Because if we're going to do AI, artificial intelligence, and various kinds of computer systems, we're going to need cooling water. And what can NIPSCO supply along with electricity, or what can they supply that doesn't really require electricity? They can supply cooling water for their electrical generators. They can also supply cooling water for substations that generate their own electricity, but because of the amount of cooling that you have to have in these substations, they can supply water for that.
Are you implying that NIPSCO
I
will
would never
utilize
imply anything.
that NIPSCO will utilize that source of water and
Oh,
sell
hell yes.
and make a profit on it? Is that what you're implying?
Not only that, well, I won't be around, but you guys will see it. I think they're going to do the same thing with the Bailey Generating Facility, which is the one they originally built 50 years ago for the steel mills. But they closed it down about 15 years ago. Well, go ahead, you guys can tell me
I
I'm
thought
wrong.
Bailey was still generating.
No, it's been closed down about 15
Oh, we
years.
had to turn it back on.
Yeah.
But if we're gonna, we got to move that out of here. I don't know why in the world we would think we had a gift.
Well,
And now
okay,
we've
but when you
ruined
say
it.
we got to move it out of there, it belongs to NIPSCO. NIPSCO
Yeah, I don't
has,
care how much money they make. If they
NIPSCO has
sell it for
a
$1
huge
billion, let them sell it for $1
All
billion.
right. All right.
Because that's tax revenue to us. That's tax base. And if it's $1 billion profit, I think it's $1 billion piece of property without anything on it after we clean it up. And that's a lot more than $5 million or $50 million or $500 million. There's a no-brainer, and I don't know why why would Michigan City be sitting on the sidelines and not screaming at the top of the lungs, we want a rate reduction, but we don't want, because we get a rate reduction, we don't want to be able to stuck with NIPSCO on the lakeshore again. Everyone knew what was there before, Hoosier Slide and beautiful beach, and it was used, and we put NIPSCO there.
Okay,
Time's
Tony,
over.
you're the CO, Chief Operating Officer, COO, or Chief Executive Officer for NIPSCO. What are you going to say? We are making this much money. Look at how much we're going to make in the future off of not only the electrical generation system, that's minor, off of the cooling water that we can supply. If you want to condemn us, good luck.
Yeah, if I was this, I think it's a great 3D chess move for the CEO of NIPSCO, because if they are going to sell electricity, their buyers are ComEd, Duke, or AEP. AEP makes a lot of electricity nuclear, so if AEP wants our electrical customers, they probably figured, well, we'll just use our nuclear power to give them electricity. NIPSCO says, wait a minute, if we sell to AEP, we're not going to get that much money, but if we get a bidding war with ComEd and Duke, because they would like to buy it too, but they can't bid at the same price level that AEP, because they make nuclear electricity, they make electricity off of gas.
Well, ComEd has nuclear plants too.
Yeah, they do, but they'll make they'll make our electricity out of gas. So let's get the three people bidding against each other, and they might hurt them because AEP is going to say, well, I'm not going to bid because my premise of bidding was to sell you nuclear electricity. These two guys are coming in and going to buy your gas and pay you money while they're producing electricity and got your customers. So I think it's a neutral call by the CEO, but I think it's a bad one.
What is more profitable, generating electricity from natural gas or nuclear?
Well, it's more profitable from NIPSCO to generate from natural gas because they'll sell them the natural gas. Mm-hmm. But it's less profitable for NIPSCO to not have to, they won't have to buy the electricity generated from natural gas because they're generated from nuclear just up the road. So I think they're trying to get the most bang for the buck if that's what they're doing. I just can read the tea leaves that NIPSCO might sell out their electric side and their customers and provide gas to the generation, and it kind of makes sense if they've signed off on this deal with the IURC, and you must know in the back of their head that they're thinking, oh yeah, we will leave it running and we'll produce gas, we'll produce electricity with gas, knowing wink wink nod nod, they're going to try to sell it to ComEd or Duke because then AEP wasn't going to pay enough money. They're increasing the value of their plant, knowing they're still going to sell them the gas to make the electricity.
So IURC basically has the final say?
And they do.
I think they had already had their minds made up, and if these people came in and said, we want the rate to be X, and they have to do this, and everyone agrees, IURC is going to rubber stamp it, say, see you later, goodbye.
Yeah.
Until anticipated next rate increase down the road.
And that's exactly where I was going, because I think with AEP, you have the biggest chance to keeping your rates the same or going lower because they're producing nuclear electricity at pennies on the dollar. You got ComEd and Duke who will be producing with natural gas, and you probably looking for another rate increase because they got to buy the natural gas from NIPSCO. It's a great business move. It's probably a bad move for the government, and Michigan City needs to step up and understand the true ramifications of whatever this negotiation is, because they do want rates lower. That won't happen, but we don't want to increase as much. But we don't want to get saddled 10, 20, 30 years down the road because we made a bad deal today.
Regardless, you'll make my NIPSCO stock go up.
NIPSCO stock will go up. And that's what the CEO and the CFO and CEO are supposed to do. That's their job. It's the government's job to figure out what 3D chess they're playing. If they're coming to you and this doesn't just happen to Michigan City, it happens to all governments. Somebody coming to you offering something, better realize what that offer is, because they're not in the business to lose money.
No. Mm-mm.
But they know somehow the government somehow is the ability to lose and waste and spend money like no tomorrow. So what's their problem?
And again, NIPSCO has never avoided paying a dividend, at least on the stocks that I have in my possession.
Well, not since the Depression.
Yeah.
But by the way, for our viewers, this sounds like we've got some really significant problems. I would view it this way. We have some really significant situations that, even if improperly handled, Michigan City and LaPorte County will be so much better off, but especially Michigan City, in 10, 15, and 20 years from now than we were 10 years ago. It's amazing how far we've come, but regardless of whether they screw it up or not, how far we will go.
We have significant opportunities that we have not seen since the days of the Pullman factory and the rail cars in town. And we can't, I don't think we can, knock on wood, we could really screw it up, but we can make sure that we don't get the ultimate value for the opportunities that are in front of us. And that is very hard to do. That is going to take everyone working together, and that brings me, I don't know what we got left, but that brings me to the article that they had in the paper about NICTE in the South Shore, that in January they come out and said they have financial difficulties, to say the least. And they need money. I think they said they need $26 million from the state, and I think they just came out, so they want to raise rates 10%. The article by Andrew Steele says the South Shore Line heads into 2025 with a need to plug a post-COVID budget hole that railroad leaders can be filled with a combination of increased state assistance, higher passenger fares, and increased ridership. The fiscal cliff, and I have it in quotes, has been on the radar of transit agencies across the country. It has. Look at the number. People are in big trouble. So Nolan said that, he said after the meeting that the railroad opens its discussion with an ask of $26 million. And then they want to spend a whole bunch of money fixing up the systems they have in place, the power transformers. And so they want, $100 or so more million dollars to spend. Just like I said, we have NIPSCO is a private company pretty much, and they are in the business to make money, and they understand that if their money is made on poor decisions in the government, it just seems to be okay. And now NICTE's going down that road that we need a lot more money. He said 26 million plus a 10% rate increase, plus some other plus increases in revenue and fares. Are we running a business that is not capable of sustaining life? And I don't understand why we keep pouring money down something. And to get back to Trump, he just went after the rail in California, whatever, $100, $200 billion over cost, that isn't even close to being done. And we as a government, or whatever government agency, need to say, that's it. It doesn't work. It doesn't financially work. We need to go a different direction. We cannot continue down this road.
Tony, were you able to find those 20 missing pages?
Yeah, you can read that at the auditor's site. They have the whole 93 pages that you can read. But
pass that information on to Bob.
I'll get to Bob. But again, back to where I started. Do you think the governor is going to get what he wants to cut everyone's budget 10%? And in doing so, is he going to give NICTE $26 million? I don't think it's going to happen. And then the question is, what happens? What happens, because we will know and when? March, April, when they finalize the budget, who gets what money? And I don't know what happens to the South Shore at that point, but boy, that could really hurt Michigan City, because we've got all our eggs in one basket at this double track. And we don't need to.
In that article, it made Mike Nolan made reference to University of Notre Dame,
Yeah.
and a bank,
Yeah.
a bank, maybe a contributing factor to this. Again, that's far-sighted. I think the people at the University of Notre Dame are very frugal, and I don't think, looking at this financial statement, they would even consider.
Pass that thing down here.
What financial statement?
Let me start by saying this. Now, in terms of the rate increase, the South Shore hasn't had a rate increase since 2018. So to ask for a 10% rate increase, I don't think is the problem.
Well, oh wait, the 10% rate increase, I don't think so either. But do you ask for a 10% rate increase when your ridership is dwindling and falling?
Whoa.
That doesn't work.
I gotta find it in here. But the big problem is the West Lake line in
Westlake
Lake
Corridor.
County. And it is so costly. It's called the Westlake Corridor Project. And in terms of their commitments and contingencies, when you look at this, $244 million is their commitment and contingency on the Westlake Coastal Line. The Double Project, which is South Bend to Chicago, $69 million. The problem is the cost of this Westlake Corridor project. That's why I want to see the notes and see what they're saying in there. That is a huge situation, and how far they've gone and how much more they're going to have to commit to get this thing done, and then the ridership that they're going to gain as a result of that, that's what has to be studied.
All their eggs are in the Westlake Corridor basket.
Yes.
And if the Westlake Corridor basket does not produce enough money to cover the Westlake Corridor and the double track, I don't know where this ends. It is not going to be well. But we will find out very shortly. And I think their problem is Chicago. Many people are moving over to Indiana. The Indiana government has welcomed people. We have cut our property taxes. We are easy to live in. And those people don't need the ride to train. And people, I just heard that United Airlines is probably leaving Chicago. So
Well, they're not going to have a hub.
they're not going to have a headquarters. They will have their more planes, but their headquarters is walking out of Chicago. And I can't remember where they're going to. I thought they were going to Texas.
Well, a lot of them are going.
But they own hundreds and hundreds of acres, and they filed for the plan commission in that state. And Chicago and the governor of Illinois are not commenting because it's not good when they leave and walk out, because they sure celebrated when they moved into Chicago. And those people are no longer, and now the last thing I read was yesterday was that Trump is cutting federal employees like no tomorrow. And if I understand the headline correct, the federal government is the greatest employer in the city of Chicago. So how many of those people are going to take the Westlake Corridor or the double track? Now, our only solace, I've always said this all along, is that those people, it's going to work backwards. Those people are going to live here. We welcome them here. Come here, pay taxes, own a home, go to school. It's a great place to live. That's where Michigan City sees its greatest opportunity. Not in getting on the train and going to work. Actually living here, getting on the train and visiting Chicago.
And that's why the Indiana Dunes Park is good. If we handle this right, will be such an attraction and such a moneymaker for Michigan City that we cannot afford to do it wrong. And I think we start with the idea that we're going to have a lodge there, and then we move into the research area, which is something that somebody said, well, why would you do that? Because there are so many things that can be looked at in terms of the species of mammals, the species of birds, and the other species in that park, and the evolution of Lake Michigan and the situations that it runs into, the types of quadrimussels and zebra mussels that we need to make a decision on how do we get rid of them, and all sorts of research that can be done in that area. And that's what we've really got to concentrate on getting.
Because the national park, and every national park, is not just a quality of life issue, it is a life issue. It's nature. Nature will be here long after we are all gone. We can build what we want, we can try to manipulate and guide Mother Nature, but Mother Nature will be here when we are all gone, and we need to celebrate that, and that's why we have the national park.
But the last part of Carl Sandburg's quote, which I started out with, meaning the parks, meaning the dunes, they constitute a signature of time and eternity. Once lost, the loss will never be recoverable. That's why we have to go in and really
I think it'll recover. Mother Nature finds a way to
well, not if
undo the things we try to do.
we still haven't recovered. We still haven't recovered the dune that we knocked down in the 1900s for Ball Corporation to build jars with. So that Mother Nature can do some things, but Mother Nature to build a sand dune like Mount Baldy will take thousands of years.
And Mother Nature at the Mount Baldy Sand Dune is gobbling up ground to the south. No one's going to get in her way. She's gobbling up ground.
Let me also say this about the South Shore. Because if anybody has experience with the bankruptcy courts, it's the South Shore. They have been in bankruptcy at least 5 or 6 times, and maybe more, throughout the years. What's going to happen is, I think, when you get into, if they have to, they'll file for bankruptcy court.
Yep.
The judge is not going to let this thing go down.
Nope.
The judge is going to say, here's the way we handle this. You get this money from here, you get this money from here, and you get this money from here. You start operating again.
An investment group will run that like it's profitable.
And who's the support mechanism for the parking garage, if not the redevelopment commission?
Oh, you're talking about the parking.
Yeah, so if they fail,
If they fail, we're going to have to pick
if
up.
they don't pay the 30 years of bonds,
That's right.
we pay. Now, I want to go back to Mount Baldy because, and Bob can tell you this movement, but you don't, time goes by quick.
Yeah.
50, 100 years goes by pretty quick. So if you take, and Bob will tell you how fast it's moving, that Mount Baldy could overtake the South Shore.
It could.
It's not that far away.
It could.
What's it moving?
Yeah, it's moving 5 feet a year.
5 feet a year.
But it's moving in a southeasterly direction. Now, the key there is the easterly direction. So how far south will it go, or will it go in a more easterly direction? The problem is that it's the north winds and the west winds, and the north winds are probably more active than the west winds, so consequently it's going to tend to go more south.
Yeah, the north winds move more sand because the vegetation is not there to hold the sand in place. But you might sound crazy, and it doesn't take much math to figure out the distance.
Look at it this way: if the sand moves like that, you'll cover up NIPSCO, so we won't have that problem.
It doesn't take much of a calculation, and IU did a whole study on it, and you can protract when that day comes. And the day comes probably in my lifetime pretty easily that Mount Baldy crosses US 12.
Oh, yeah.
And it's already eaten up the parking lot.
It's going to cross the parking lot. They're going to need a new parking lot.
And projecting in the future, it could absorb the west side moraine.
Yes.
It could be all.
Mother Nature could take over because between 12 and the South Shore, there are some very beautiful wetlands that used to be, what do they call that, Fish Lake? It used to be a lake before it got drained with the Black Ditch. And Mother Nature does what she wants to do.
Oh, you pointed to Black Ditch. I did a little research on there's a White Ditch in LaPorte County, and the White Ditch also extends into Berrien County. And the residents of Michiana Shores wants their portion of White Ditch cleaned out.
Some do.
Some do. The exit to White Ditch into Lake Michigan is in Berrien County. Don't you think it should be a coordinated effort from Berrien County all the way to Michigan City to clean out the ditch?
The White Ditch is really two different ditches. And you get into Indiana, it's a really flat, low flow, low velocity ditch. When you get into Michigan and Berrien County, it has a lot more steep elevation, and it keeps itself clean. So as soon as you get past the Indiana-Michigan line, it starts roaring through there. It's got a lot more elevation fall, so we don't see the buildup. Our problem is the pipe at Indiana-Michigan line, which is in Michigan's problem, and they don't want to pay to take the pipe out and put a bridge, which would let the low velocity carry the ditch that gets built up. And
you're talking about a gas pipe?
No, it's a pipe. It's a
culvert?
It's a huge culvert, and it should be a bridge. It should be a span and not a culvert, because if it gets clogged up with trees and debris, it floods Michiana, but it also slows the velocity down and stops the sediment from being transported down into the levels of slope that are in Michigan. So that's really the problem, and it's a Michigan problem. That unless we convince them to take the culvert out and put a span in there, and Senator Bohacek has really tried hard in his years, everyone's tried hard, but Michigan, the state of Michigan, just seems like they don't care and they don't want to spend the money. I don't think they even would let Indiana pay for it, because they just don't want to do it. But that's the problem. There's plenty of slope in Michigan, hardly any slope in Indiana, because we start in kind of a swamp area, all the way to Tryon Road, all the way to that area. It's not much slope, and the sediment just sits there and builds up. Not enough capacity.
Because when I researched it, Trail Creek allows water to flow in Michigan City. Water flows in Porter County, and water doesn't flow in the Grand Beach area because of this obstruction.
Because of this culvert that's not let the velocity carry through.
So the problem has been identified. Then the question is,
the state of Michigan needs to let us, or fix the culvert and make it a bridge and let it go. Let Mother Nature carry the sediment through there. Then we had to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars cleaning it up every 5 to 10 years.
I think the last time White Ditch was cleaned out was 8 or 9 years ago.
8 years ago, yes, we cleaned it out. And it's not fun to clean out a ditch. We only got a few minutes left.
5 minutes. 5 minutes, okay.
So it's something you can look at, because you know how to do this and everyone else knows how to do this. Go to Google.
Yep.
And go to Google Earth, and you can start picking elevations, and you'll see what I'm talking about. The slope from Indiana, Michigan, going down the Galen River to the lake is quite considerably more than the slope going up in our White Ditch. It's pretty cool we have that technology. You can do that at home. It's kind of fun.
It is.
We do it.
Yeah, any area. You can
look at
any area whatsoever. You can go down to. Well, how many years have we been doing it, Tony?
It's pretty accurate. It's scary how accurate it is.
Within Tony and I, we walked down the ditches with his
GPS
device, and
Yeah, those GPSs are within about 3/4 of an inch. Google's probably a 1/2 foot to a foot, but
You still be able to see the end result by
See
using
it.
common sense as well as utilizing Google.
yep.
Yeah. Wow. Again, I've been a little. I figured I've been a little slow this last week, so I apologize for my not contributing as much. But
And Dave set me up because I put these shows on the YouTube channel, and I've got a duplicate show, so I'll fix that for you. So if you go to Navigate News and Views, a couple of shows are the same. I will fix it.
so your line of communication, Andy, will be with Tony because he'll pick up the device. He'll pick up the thumb drive.
And if you're watching Navigate News and Views, we try to get it switched over Monday or Tuesday for the newest show.
So I get it in. I don't normally do this, but if anybody is interested in a really interesting book to read, it's got a lot of photographs, got a lot of charts, and it's well analyzed in terms of the Duneland situation. It was written by a retired professor from IU Northwest by Kenneth J. Schoon, and the name of it is Dreams of Duneland, a pictorial history of the Indiana Dunes region. And he's on his second edition. It looks like this, and I got it out of the South Bend, Mishawaka, Barnes & Noble in that mall, but it was the last one on the shelf. I don't know if they had any in inventory, but it was the last one on the shelf. He's in his second edition, and if you really want to look at it, it's where we live. It talks about it, and it cost me $38 before the sales tax. So maybe you can get it out of a library someplace, but if you can't, I think one of those bookstores, Barnes & Noble, will be able to order it.
All right, we're getting down the last 2 minutes. Bob, close. Tony, close. I'll be ready to close after you finish talking.
I was just looking at the Dreams of Duneland if it's available electronically, but go ahead, Bob.
Well, I'd just like to wish everybody a happy weekend. We're going to have a lot going on over the next 2, 3, 4 years, but I think you're going to find that it's going to be interesting. And in the end, we will all come out in a better living situation than we're in right now.
Dreams of Duneland is available online at a Kindle reader for $9.99. So if you like the pictures and the graphics are awesome.
Yeah.
So you can look at it electronically.
I want to thank everybody for watching. Your input as to improvements or criticisms of the program is greatly appreciated. Please contact show's co-producers Bob Pollock, Dave Bila, or Tony Hendricks with your comments. You can email Bob at skrpollock@gmail.com, Dave at djbila1@hotmail.com, or Tony at emailhem@yahoo.com. Or you may direct your ideas for any future shows to our one and only pain in the neck staff writer, Sarah Bellum. Showing of our program will be Saturday morning at 10 a.m., followed Monday and Thursday evening at 7 p.m. on Channel 99. We hope you enjoy watching us on YouTube at Navigate News and Views. We've got how many? 10 or 12 shows?
I don't know.
We've got
I just load them.
we got a span of, and you just take your mouse and you hit it, and it brings up that specific show. So we hope you enjoy what we're trying to do, and thank you for watching, and make it a good day.